In the vast expanse of our minds, countless thoughts constantly swirl, sometimes chaotic, often overwhelming. But what if I told you there's a way to look at your thoughts differently, to separate from them, observe them, and regain control of your mental landscape? Welcome to the concept of cognitive diffusion, an idea that has the potential to revolutionize how we think about thinking. Every second, we have an endless parade of thoughts passing through our minds, some helpful, some confusing, and some downright distressing. But here's the catch. We act as if every thought is an undeniable fact. I'm not good enough. I will fail. I am my anxiety. This is where cognitive diffusion comes in, a concept from acceptance and commitment therapy that teaches us how to distance ourselves from our thoughts. Instead of identifying with them, we observe them as if they're passing clouds in a vast sky, without believing that they define us in some way. Imagine you're walking through a park, and a thought floats by. I'll never be good enough. You might be tempted to chase after it, engage with it, or even let it derail your entire day. But cognitive diffusion teaches us to simply let it float by. The thought is not you. It's just a thought. By separating ourselves from it, we gain the power to choose our actions instead of reacting automatically. With this practice, we diffuse. We break the strong emotional connection we have with these mental labels for ourselves. We stop viewing them as truths and begin to see them as transient. Cognitive diffusion is like taking a balloon filled with all your worst thoughts, releasing it and watching it drift into the sky, becoming a distant speck. It's still there, but it no longer controls you. Thoughts can often feel like an invasion, like unexpected alarms or sticky notes that remind us of things we'd rather ignore. But the key to mastering cognitive diffusion is recognizing that we're not slaves to these thoughts. They don't have to dictate how we feel or how we act. We are not our thoughts, and our thoughts aren't us. By practicing cognitive diffusion, you're not denying the existence of negative thoughts, but you're learning to coexist with them. You stop letting them control your decisions, your interactions, and your life. Instead, you let them pass by like clouds, and you get to decide how you want to move forward. And with that newfound distance comes clarity. You can focus on what matters, your values, your goals, and the things you can actually control. Now let's get a little bit nerdy. When we think, our brain is doing a lot of work behind the scenes. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional responses, lights up when we experience fear, anxiety, or stress. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex tries to manage our reactions and decisions. Cognitive diffusion is the mental tool we use to give the prefrontal cortex more space to breathe. Instead of letting the amygdala drive the bus, cognitive diffusion gives us a moment to decide how to respond. The simplest way to start practicing it is to just sit in stillness and notice your thoughts. When one arises, don't judge it. Don't try to push it away. Just let it exist. At first, it might feel impossible. Your brain wants to engage and to analyze, to act. But over time, this practice helps you see that thoughts are not your reality. They are simply fleeting guests. When we have negative thoughts, we typically just want them to stop. But rather than focusing on wanting to stop them, we should focus on changing our relationship with them. The thoughts will always come and go. The goal of cognitive diffusion is to create a space between you and your thoughts, so they're not dictating your feelings or your behaviors anymore. It's important to acknowledge that this process isn't easy. Many of us struggle with rumination, that persistent cycle of overthinking where we're trapped in a whirlpool of our own thoughts. And when we first try cognitive diffusion, it's common to feel like our thoughts are drowning us. But just like a storm eventually passes, your thoughts too will settle. The key is to remember that it's normal to feel overwhelmed at first. It's a practice, not a perfect solution. By observing your thoughts as passing phenomena, you reclaim your mental space and cultivate inner peace.